If life is just, why does it look so unfair? That might be one of the hardest philosophical questions there is. Because if justice means anything real, it has to hold not only when life is pleasant, but also when life hurts. In illness, in loss, in conflict, in equality, in suffering. Most of us carry some idea of justice. We think good people should be rewarded, bad people should be punished, and life should, in some recognizable way, reflect what a person deserves. That sounds reasonable, but the problem starts the moment we compare that idea with actual life. Because in real life, people do not seem to get what they deserve all the time. Some people are born into enormous difficulties, others into much easier conditions. Some act badly and seem to do well, others try to do the right thing and still suffer. Some are kind and get crushed by life. Some are selfish and seem to move ahead. So, if justice means that life should look fair from the surface, then life does not seem very just. And that creates a real problem, not only emotionally, but philosophically. Because if justice cannot survive contact with reality, then it's not much of an answer. One conclusion would be that life is simply not just, that reality is indifferent or chaotic in a way, or morally silent, that suffering does not mean anything. And of course, many people do come to that conclusion, but others do not come to that conclusion, and sometimes life forces you to ask the big questions. This channel explores a world picture where the answers actually hold together. I found one body of work that's tried to answer this question in a much more radical way than most people are used to. It comes from the Danish writer Martinus. His claim is not that suffering is pleasant, and not that we should deny pain, and not that we should stop caring about injustice or human responsibility. His claim is something much harder. It is that our ordinary understanding of good and bad, fairness and unfairness, is incomplete. And because it is incomplete, our understanding of justice breaks down. In an article called All is Very Good, Martinus says that people reject this idea because they think that for something to be good, it must also be agreeable and pleasant. If it's not pleasant, they call it bad. And according to him, that is exactly the mistake we make. One of his centralized ideas is that we usually confuse good with pleasant. If something feels good to us, we call it good. If it feels painful or difficult, we call it bad. But that does not hold together very well, because what is pleasant is not always what is truly good for us, and what is unpleasant is not always meaningless. That is a very demanding idea, because it means that justice cannot simply be about comfort. It cannot simply mean pleasant experiences. If justice is to hold together, it has to be able to include also the unpleasant parts of life. Now, this is where many people will understandably resist. Because if someone says that suffering belongs to something just, it can sound really cold. It can sound like an excuse, it can sound like a denial of real pain. So I think it's important to be very precise here. The point is not that pain feels nice. The point is not that war, illness, grief, betrayal, or loneliness are enjoyable. It is not. The point is that life is to be understood as meaningful and just. Then even painful experiences might have some place in a larger structure. Otherwise, justice collapses the moment life becomes difficult. Tinus argues that the unpleasant can still be meaningful because life is developmental. We do not live only inside isolated moments, we live inside a much larger process. A process of experiences, consequences, learning, and transformation. This changes the question. The question is no longer only, does this feel fair right now? The question becomes, is there a larger lawfulness in life, in which even difficult experiences contribute to growth, insights, and transformation? In another text, Martinus formulates this really sharply. He says that if life really is just, then justice must mean that no one can do wrong in an ultimate sense, and no one can suffer wrong in an ultimate sense. That is an extremely difficult claim, but it shows how far Martinus is willing to push the idea of justice. He's not trying to save a comforting version of fairness, he's trying to think justice all the way through. That is a much harder idea of justice than the ordinary one. It says that justice is not primarily about reward and punishment in the usual sense. It is not primarily about comfort. It is about lawfulness, cause and effect, development, the idea that life is not random, and that what we meet is connected in some deeper way to what we do, what we become, and what we have not yet understood. This is also why the perspective does not make action irrelevant. Quite the opposite, actually. If life is lawful, there are some laws in it, then what we think, do, say, and become matters deeply. Justice does not mean that nothing matters because everything is somehow already fine. It means that everything matters because life is structured, because consequences are real, because development is real, because consciousness is not a static thing. Martinus is very explicit about this. In the article, Everything is Very Good, he says that people usually want others to change so their life can become good. But the deeper task is that we ourselves must become different in order to discover that life already is very good and meaningful in a larger sense. Most of us want other people, society, or circumstances to change so that life can become good. And of course, many things in the world should be relieved, healed, and improved, and so forth. But Martinus adds another dimension. He says that a major part of the problem is that we ourselves do not yet see life clearly enough. We do not yet see why reality might be all is very good in a deeper sense that we usually assume. So the challenge is not only to demand that life look more fair from the outside, the challenge is also to expand our understanding of what justice would have to mean if it has to hold together all the way through. This does not remove compassion. If anything, it deepens it actually. Because pain is still pain. It still calls for care, for patience, for understanding, for helping each other. But compassion no longer has to be based on the idea that life is broken at the deepest level. It can be based on the idea that people are in the middle of something they do not yet fully understand, including ourselves, and that we ourselves are too. That may also be why this question matters so much. Because if we cannot find a way of understanding justice, then bitterness easily takes over. We become trapped in blame, resentment, or despair. We become convinced either that life is against us or that nothing ultimately makes sense. But if there is a deeper justice in life, then that does not make life smaller. It makes it larger. It means that reality may be more coherent than it first appears. You do not have to agree with Martinus' answer, but I hope it's some kind of food for thought. And I also think that it's one of the hardest ideas to think through honestly, but it's also one of the most important ones, because the question remains, if life is to be understood as just, what kind of answer would actually hold together? And if our current answer breaks down as soon as life becomes painful, then maybe we need a bigger answer. If this question matters to you, I would love to hear what you think. Leave a comment below. And if you want to keep exploring this world picture, subscribe to the channel. There's more to come. and thank you for watching.